Welcome to Civilization Stories, where we tell alternatives to history through the lens of the world's most addictive video games. Man, that feels weird to say, but here we are. Over the last month, I have myself dedicating most of my Civ time to Mohawk Games' Old World. After a very positive impression, I found myself wanting to dive a little deeper and become more accustomed with the game's mechanics and finally win a game. After a fun initial playthrough, I upped the difficulty to the strong and decided to play again as Greece, this time as Alexander. I felt confident that I knew what I was doing this time around until my city started to constantly rebel from unhappiness and Babylon decided to invade. It looked like they had the upper hand, and I learned that one needs to have a robust military in order to counter the AI. I fled to safety and decided to mix things up. I decided to try again as Babylon, again building on what I had learned. I felt like I did okay, but Assyria, holy heck, they were just too strong and flew out to a win in year 140. But I did have a fun time just playing and played to the end of the game, not feeling at all distraught at not having been named the victor. I booted up another game, this time as Rome. I felt like I had learned a lot and now had a handle on the game. I got into a major conflict with Carthage and did alright at the beginning. My economy kept going into a tailspin because as I grew, my cities became more and more upset. I ran into new issues as well, including having insufficient orders to challenge my rivals. The Hatti, like Assyria before, were way out in front. When Carthage plotted to take their revenge on me, they made quick headway and the path to success seemed insurmountable, so I fled back to safety again. I decided to dial the difficulty down to the good, so I could continue to get a better handle on the game. I would focus on slower, more purposeful growth over rapid expansion. I aim to balance my military strength with building a solid economy that never gets completely ignored for the sake of conquest. And I vowed to make better use of my men and ladies at court to ensure that they were leading my armies in battle and working within cities to make them stronger and more productive, something I had ignored, unless prompted, in earlier games. I decided to go with something a little familiar and decided to lead the Greeks again, starting with Alexander. I also went back to a continents map so things would feel familiar. And that's where things got really interesting. The Alcmaeonid family of sages founded Greece's capital city, Pella. In year 2, not only did Greece receive labor force from a goody hut, but they were also able to enact slavery as a law from what I could only tell was a random narrative event, a positive start to Greece's little empire. By year 5, the Gauls challenged Alexander's authority. He was no longer respectful to smaller nations, so hostilities began right away. By year 7, Alexander was 26 years old and already concerned about his succession. But the Alcmaeonids offered 2 women he felt were unworthy to bear his children, so he turned them both down. Alexander gave Gortyn, Greece's second city, to the Argead family of strong warriors. Where the Alcmaeonid family failed, the Thracians, a peaceful tribe on Greece's eastern frontier, succeeded. The choice was difficult, but now 30 years old, Alexander decided to take Rhodopis of Thrace, aged 28, as his wife. She turned out to be a bit of a flirt. Greece's third city, Potidaea, was given to the Seleucid family to administer. Although Duchess Cleopatra, Alexander's sister, had been next in the line of succession for almost 20 years, in year 19 of Alexander's reign, Queen Consort Rhodopis gave birth to a baby boy. All of Greece celebrated the arrival of Alexander II, who jumped the queue ahead of the Alcmaeonid family's Duchess Lanike and Duke Aribas, daughter and son of Cleopatra, and became heir to the throne. After turning 40, stuck perhaps in some kind of midlife crisis, Alexander took up religion and converted to Greek paganism. Year 26 of Alexander's reign was a big year. To further his midlife crisis, Alexander took a second wife, this time calling on the 25-year-old Ermengon to establish a peace between Greece and the Vandal tribe. Aristotle, Greece's trusted governor of Pella, died and was unable to attend the wedding. It was time for Duchess Lanike to take up the charge and steer Greece's capital city into the future. She was righteous, so she could be trusted with so important a task. Also that year, Alexander and his troops captured one of the Gauls' settlements, whose land would be Greek land one day. Exploring in the northwest, Greek scouts met emissaries from Rome. In year 28 of Alexander's reign, a massive earthquake hit Pella, leaving the city in ruin. Alexander, then known as the Intrepid, vowed to restore the city to its former glory. Duchess Lanike did well to help rebuild the city, but Greece belonged to the house of Alexander. As talented as she was, she would never take the throne. When Prince Alexander turned 10, it was decided that he would follow in his father's footsteps and study tactics. One day, he would also become a great soldier and leader of Greek armies. Over the ruins of the Gauls' encampment, the Alcmaeonid Greek family house established a new city, Miletus. Greece held a delicate peace with the nearby Kushites. Just 1 year after giving birth to Alexander's second son, it was discovered that Ermengon had shared state secrets with the enemy. Her son, Duke Antiochus, would be welcomed at court, but she was now a fugitive. In the 34th year of his reign, at the age of just 53, Greek doctors informed Alexander that the illness he suffered would not abate and that he was doomed. Attempting to exploit Alexander's illness, Shanakdakate of the Kushites decided to challenge his authority over the Old World. But by now, Alexander the Intrepid, a terrifying figure to behold and his legitimacy unquestioned, told the Kushite queen where she could stuff her demands. To further cement his authority before leaving the throne, Alexander established Greek paganism as Greece's state religion. In spite of his illness, King Alexander lived long enough to see his son turn 18 and complete his study of tactics. But after a 36-year reign, Alexander died and the throne passed to Alexander II. Alexander I's sister, Duchess Cleopatra, stricken with grief at the passing of her brother the king, died moments later. With his mother dead, his mother-in-law a fugitive, and his half-brother just 8 years old, Alexander II's claim to the throne was unquestioned. But Alexander II's cousins could still stir up trouble, leading to citizens of Pella questioning Lanika's practices at statecraft. But rather than scold her for putting herself above the citizens, Alexander II understood her worth at court and preferred to work alongside her, even if it meant doing so at the citizens' expense. Just the second year of his reign, Alexander gave to the Argead family the city of Antiochia. Alexander II, believing his reign would last forever, was unafraid when his half-brother, Prince Antiochus, came of age to begin his studies and decided that he too would study tactics in order to lead armies in the field and ensure the safety of the Greek people. Greek legends tell the story that at age 20, wishing upon a monkey's paw and offered a wish between riches, renown, and power. Alexander II chose power. Perhaps Alexander's lust for power angered the gods, for in the 4th year of his reign, Greece became stricken with plague. Alexander challenged the role of the gods and their dominion over the Greek people. Science, he thought, would show the Greek people the way. Forced into a marriage for the good of the nation at just 23, Alexander II needed to choose between a marriage to keep the peace within Greece or with their rivals to the east, the Axumites. As his bride, Alexander chose the Axumite noblewoman Sophia to join him at court and produce an heir. In the 8th year of Alexander II's reign, a strange philosopher from the east, Confucius, arrived in Greece to offer his wisdom, and Alexander immediately made him one of his trusted advisors at court. Sophia, aged just 24, fell ill and was prepared to die. In a shockingly selfless act, Alexander offered to sacrifice himself and allowed a Greek wise woman to perform an old folk ritual that could save the queen at his expense. Guided through the stages of the ritual, in a feverish dream, the god Pluton was so moved by the king's gesture that both Alexander and Sophia were spared the journey into Hades. In the 12th year of his reign, Alexander founded the city of Philippi and gave the city to the Seleucid family. Like his father before him, Alexander II was offered the opportunity to take a second wife. But after all that he had been through after Sophia's illness, he had grown quite fond of his Axumite queen. A truce with the Vandals was not incentive enough to besmirch Sophia's good name. In the 16th year of Alexander's reign, Queen Julia of Rome died, passing the throne to Appius, who, upon his ascension, came to the Greeks seeking tribute. Alexander refused, and Rome declared war on Greece. The next year, Judaism was founded in Greece. Though competing religions could create strife within court, Alexander was also keen to welcome new ways of thinking. Greek armies had been sitting at the doorstep of Thracian territory for years, preparing for an invasion. When Thrace declared war on Greece, Greek troops were prepared to take the fight to them. After more than 50 years in office, Duchess Laniki, Greece's long-serving governor of Pella, passed away. Her contribution to the development of the Greek people, turning the capital city into a beacon of freedom and culture, could not be understated, and her position truly irreplaceable. In the 25th year of his reign, Alexander II founded his third city, Nicomedia, giving it to the Alcmaeonid family to administer. By the 63rd year of the Alexandrian dynasty, the Axumite kingdom to the east of Greece was believed to be the strongest in the world. Alexander II's bride, Queen Sophia, born of the Axumites, was able to keep the peace between the two nations. It was the upstart Kushite nation to Greece's south who suddenly and without provocation declared war on Greece and set the world down a path of conflict and disorder. Now forced into the field of battle and without a legitimate heir, the Greek court began to question the line of succession. Alexander's cousin, Erebus, the last living relative of the Alcmaeonid family from the time of Alexander I, took the floor to speak about the legacy of the Alexandrian line. It was decided that Duke Leonidas would overtake Alexander's half-brother Antiochus, son of the fugitive queen consort Ermengon, in the line of succession. To counter the Kushite threat, the core of the Greek army left their posts in the east by the border with Axum to rally around the threatened city of Philippi, while a small force advanced toward the Kushite city of Karanog. Kushite forces advanced from the south toward the city of Miletus, and a roving band of barbarians were closing in from the west. Greek forces advancing toward Karanog withdrew to defend the homeland. In anticipation of Alexander's 30th year on the throne, citizens of Potidaea completed the great wonder Yazilikiah. At the same moment, Duke Arabas passed away, leaving Alexander, still without an heir, the last of the royal family from the founding of Greece, left to rule the land. Greek forces successfully fended off the Kushite advance, so much so that their troops began to defect to the Greek cause and began to worship Greek paganism. Alexander II's might and reputation had grown to the point of him being named the Brilliant. Having successfully quelled the Kushite advance on the southern border, the Greek counteroffensive successfully captured the Kushite city of Karanog. In the 33rd year of his reign, Alexander II founded the city of Mytilene, giving it to the Argead family to administer. After almost 30 years of marriage, Sophia, the Axumite queen, whose health had always been questioned, died without producing an heir for her husband Alexander. He had traveled into the underworld for her, and she was now gone. Prince Leonidas was next in line to the throne. The lands of Greece were in peril from the Kushites in the south. Alexander thought back to his wish upon a monkey's paw, seeking power above all things. Despite his advance into Kushite lands, his reputation balanced on a knife's edge. After subduing Karanog, it was decided that the Seleucid family should administer the city of this new Kushite province. Though still mourning the death of Sophia, Alexander understood his duty to provide an heir for the Greek Empire. Now 56 years old, Alexander II took a Danish warrior queen, Sella, aged 31, as his wife, securing a peace with the Danes in the process. She was strong and would be immediately useful leading Greek forces in the field against the Kushites. In the 39th year of his reign, and still at the head of his armies in battle, Alexander II himself walked into the Kushite city of El Tuwaina and claimed it in the name of the Greek Empire, further cementing his legitimacy and being dubbed Alexander the Good in the process. Though not a single battle had been fought, Rome, hearing of the Greek victories over the Kushites, sent emissaries to Alexander to make peace. After more than 20 years of a silent war, Rome and Greece had a truce. At age 60, after completing ambitions, Alexander II earned the title of the Strong. In spite of the new title, Alexander became ill, leaving doctors with little hope. It was believed that Alexander would die without an heir. Remembering his old monkey paw, Alexander wished to be made well, and so it was. It was time to approach the office of king with renewed vigor. With the continued rise of his legitimacy, Alexander became known as the Glorious. The Kushites appealed to end the war. With renewed belief in his monkey paw, Alexander saw power and glory firmly in his future and declined. Most important of all, the renewed vigor with which Alexander promised to bring to his office after cheating death led to the birth of a legitimate heir to the throne. The boy was named Alexander after his father and grandfather. Alexander II became a father for the only time at age 61. In the 48th year of his reign, Alexander II and his Greek forces captured the Kushite city of El-Hasa. The end of that year marked the end of an engrossing, epic 4-hour gaming session like I had not known in years. It must have been a Sunday. Returning to it, probably later that day, Alexander's armies fulfilled their ambition of defeating Kushites in the field. The feat pushed Alexander II's legitimacy to new heights, earning him the title Alexander the Great. Following in the family tradition, Alexander III, on his 10th birthday, went into the world to study tactics. Like great Greek kings before him, he would become a general in the field. He quickly got a glimpse of how things are done as his father's army captured the Kushite city of Amara. In the 54th year of his reign, ambassadors from Rome came to Alexander expecting him to yield to Roman hegemony. By now, Alexander's strength and influence, despite his advancing age, had grown so strong and mighty that no force on earth would frighten him into yielding a single inch of Greek land to anyone. And he told the Roman ambassadors as much. Rome and Greece were at war for a second time. Amanibaki of Kush came once again to beg Alexander for peace, but Alexander refused to forgive the initial betrayal. The end of the Kushites was near, and Alexander, by seizing all of their land, could cement his place in history and fulfill his destiny as the all-great and powerful king of the world. In the 57th year of his reign, Alexander's armies captured the Kushite city of Akasha. In the 62nd year of his reign, Alexander II's second wife, Sela, died while leading her soldiers in battle. She had been a mighty warrior, but most importantly, she had succeeded where Alexander's first wife had failed and became mother to the heir of the Greek throne. A festival was held in her honor. With the main force of Greece's troops continuing to subdue the Kushites in the south, Roman troops arrived on the western border approaching the city of Philippi. In the 65th year of his reign, Alexander II's armies marched on the city of Meroe, and the Kushite Empire was no more. All of their land, thanks to Alexander, was now a province of Greece. But Alexander, selflessly, gave this glory back to the Greek people by hosting a festival in the city of Pella. Cowardly Roman soldiers did not enter the limits of the city of Philippi and attack the garrison. Instead, they struck down workers. They would pay for their treachery. Alexander III, now just 23 years old, but already with an illegitimate child, was becoming popular at court, and marriage proposals eager to secure better relationships between Greek families were flooding in. But the boy was not ready. After 68 years on the throne, Alexander II's mighty heart finally gave out. Although modern scholars still viewed the Aksumite kingdom as the mightiest in the world, Alexander's rule over Greece was unquestioned and helped his nation to achieve a measure of supremacy over their rivals, defeating the Kushite Empire in the process. He was a master tactician, a fearsome general in the field, and a man of undying love for his Aksumite queen, Sophia, whom he was now destined to meet in the afterlife. The duties of Greece would be left to his son Alexander III, son of the Danish warrior queen Sela, to attend. First was the Great War against Rome. With this half-Danish upstart assuming the Greek throne, the old alliance with Aksum was disappearing. But Alexander III, carrying a copy of his father's mighty heart, was not about to bow before the throne of the Aksumites and grovel. Now head of the Greek people, Alexander III's first giant undertaking was the construction of the Colosseum near the city of Pella. In the third year of his reign, Alexander III, now 29 years old, on the advice of Greek pagan priests, chose the 23-year-old Deidamia as his wife. Scouts brought news of a massive buildup of Aksumite troops near the city of Mendephera, right on the Greek border. With no longer any peace in place between Greece and Aksum, conflict looked to be on the horizon. Thrace was caught in the middle of the war between Greece and Rome. When Greek troops invaded their encampment on the western frontier, they were no more. In the 5th year of Alexander's reign, the Aksumite king, Zacharnas, died, leaving Bazan as their new leader. Relations between the two nations continued to worsen. That year, Greeks founded the city of Lindos over the ruins of the Thracian encampment, giving the city to the Seleucid family to administer. In the 6th year of Alexander III's reign, Greeks and Persians made contact for the first time. The Persians were a much weaker nation from a far-off place, worth very little attention. There was no reason to waste resources by going to war. Cowardly barbarians disturbing the peace around the capital slaughtered innocent laborers building the Colosseum. Alexander made the barbarians pay for their treachery, being named Alexander the Valiant in the process. Roman forces made their advance on the new Greek outpost of Lindos. Alexander III inherited a mighty empire, but now it would be challenged from all sides. In the 7th year of his reign, Aksumite troops amassed near the city of Mendephera, without provocation, invaded the Greek Empire and advanced upon Antiochia. Alexander swore that King Bazan would pay for his treachery. If the Aksumites had had enough orders to deploy all of their troops, they might have fought to great effect against the Greeks. Instead, their invasion was hastily planned, and they sent too few troops too deep into Greek territory with inadequate support, only to watch them get picked off one by one. In the 11th year of his reign, while battling Romans to the west and Aksumites to the east, Alexander III and his queen Deidamia welcomed their daughter, heiress to the Greek throne, into the world. They named her Sela, after Alexander's mother, the Danish warrior queen. The war with Aksum brought great suffering and great tragedy. The princess was but 2 years old when her mother died. Troops rallied around Antiochia to spare the city and drive away the Aksumite horde. The plain surrounding the city of Antiochia was the site of the greatest battle the world had ever seen. The Axumites became bold in their advance and moved in on Potidaea, one of Greece's most ancient cities. Axumite troops left behind the line on the far side of Antiochia were slaughtered where they stood. The legend of Alexander III goes that at age 42, he was haunted by a dream of his father berating him for having lived an empty life. Desperately wanting to emulate the heroics of the great king before him, Alexander woke in a sweat, vowing to do better and take the Greek people with him toward a more glorious path. Clearing the fields around Antiochia of Axumite forces, Alexander III earned for himself the title of Invincible. In the 17th year of Alexander III's reign, Greek emissaries made first contact with the Hatti people, a small nation whose lands were far away. There was little reason to stir any kind of conflict. Hostilities on both fronts had raged into stalemates. Were any ground to be won, something would need to change. When Rome offered the Greeks a truce, it offered Greece an opportunity to unite its divided forces against the Axumites. Knowing that he was growing lonely at court and with his mind too deeply focused on warfare, Philaena introduced Alexander III to a bright young woman, Artemisia. The connection was instant and they were married. Unlike his first marriage of diplomacy, Alexander III's feelings for Artemisia ran deep. It was a marriage of true love. Having failed in the assault of Antiochia, Axumite forces then made an attempt to lay siege to Meroe. There were still tribal lands for the taking, and Alexander, filled with new vigor after his marriage, decided that they would be Greek. In the 19th year of his reign, he declared war on the Vandals. With Axumite forces now laying dead in the fields outside Antiochia or advancing upon the Kushite city of Meroe, the road was clear for Greek troops to advance upon Mendephera. They captured the city that same year. Axumite forces retreated back to the defense of their city, but the Greek position was too strong and they were easily repulsed. When Princess Scylla came of age, unlike her forefathers, it was decided that she would learn politics. That same year, the 21st of Alexander III's reign, he founded the city of Corinth, giving it to the Alcmaeonid family to administer. Greek forces, having finally made gains into Axumite territory, showed the true might of their empire, wiping away the last of the troops of Mendephera. A new age of Greek supremacy was dawning as scholars finally acknowledged Greece as the known world's foremost superpower. Alexander III's love for Artemisia was great, but it could also be tested. Artemisia herself offered Alexander to take another wife to strengthen relations with the Scythians, the last of the minor tribes.
It's a trap!
In the 24th year of his reign, Alexander III finally completed his Colosseum, bringing an everlasting glory to his empire and pushing his legitimacy to new heights. For Alexander III's Silver Jubilee, once again, he was offered a second wife, which he again declined, staying true to Artemisia, his one true love. The Greek advance on Axum continued with troops in the south, clearing the way to make an assault on the city of Kohaito. In the 27th year of his reign, Greek troops broke through and captured the city. That same year, a small contingent of elite troops captured the Axumite city of Azaba in the north. With their betrayal sufficiently avenged, Greece, under the stewardship of the House of Alexander, had now risen to become the dominant force in the known world. Victory through true dominion over their adversaries was in reach, but not through Axum to the east. Alexander III would not forget the Greeks' close kinship with Axum. He remembered his father's stories of his one true love, his Axumite bride, Sophia. The Axumite people were Greece's brothers and sisters. Victory would be achieved by subduing the old enemy, Rome. So a truce between Axum and Greece was agreed. Artemisia, always eager to help her husband, suggested she take up a greater role in court, relieving the king of many of his duties so he could concentrate more on leading his soldiers in the field. Artemisia, his beloved, was someone to whom Alexander had great difficulty saying no. With his administrative duties relieved, Alexander III decided it was time to advance on Rome. Troops had moved from the east and amassed along the western border, and emissaries were sent to Queen Claudia of Rome to inform her of Greece's hegemonic ambitions. The invasion began with a Greek assault on the city of Sirmium. With Greece now at war with Rome, Persia saw their opportunity to exploit the situation and draw Greece's talented minds away from court. Queen Parmes of Persia targeted Princess Scylla. Attempting to add her to the Persian nobility was a step too far, to which Alexander III refused. He was not about to see his beloved daughters conspiring on behalf of a vassal nation. The consequence was, Greece was now at war with Persia as well as Rome. Artemisia, God bless her, came to Alexander requesting to expand Greece's scientific ambitions. He trusted her, but this is what marriage is: disappointing the one you love for the good of the nation. For now, despite feeling as though he had been put in so many impossible situations, Alexander III's decisions appeared to pay off as Greek troops captured the city of Sirmium. In the 32nd year of his reign, completing yet another of Greece's ambitions, Alexander III's legitimacy reached yet new heights as he became dubbed the Glorious. Princess Sela, now in her early 20s, began to receive marriage proposals from Greek families looking to secure access to the royal throne. Alexander, like his father before him, knew the importance of marrying out of duty, but also of marrying for love. For now, he was prepared to let Princess Sela choose her own way. When Alexander's second daughter, Theano, turned 10 years old, like her older sister Sela, it was decided that she would learn politics. As the war against Rome continued, Greek troops advanced upon the city of Nida. In the 35th year of Alexander III's reign, Greek troops captured the city. The next year, with his legitimacy climbing to new heights, Alexander III earned the title Magnificent. Sela, the future queen of Greece, well studied in the art of politics and statecraft, much to her father's joy, was also able to prove herself on the battlefield in the war against Rome. The whole of the house of Alexander, boys and girls, proved themselves of the mightiest spirit. Theirs was the blood of the divine. As a result of her heroics, marriage proposals from Greek families came flooding in for Princess Sela once again. And once again, her father vowed that the choice would be hers. In the 37th year of his reign, now aged 63, doctors warned King Alexander that the end was near. Though certain his daughter Sela would make a worthy and capable queen, Alexander was determined, before his time had come, to see Greeks rule the world and leave in place a Grecian peace for his daughters over which to rule. Once again, suitors came calling to the court, seeking Sela's hand in marriage to secure relationships within Greece. But yet again, none were worthy, and Alexander was determined to allow his daughters to make their own choice. In the 38th year of his reign, with the death of Queen Parmis of Persia, ignoring his legitimacy in the name of global peace, Alexander and the new Persian queen Gordia agreed on a truce. Alexander's youngest daughter, Phila, now 10 years old, would go into the world to learn commerce. Fighting between Greek and Roman forces continued as Greek troops pushed back the Roman counteroffensive away from the city of Nida. Upon defeating a barbarian horde around a Scythian encampment, scholars of the known world agreed that Greece had achieved victory and become masters of the Old World. Holy hell, what a story! It might sound like I'm trying to give kudos to myself, but really I am in awe over what kind of story the mechanics of Old World allowed me to tell. I need to confess that when I play, I run very quickly through many of the narrative events that I do find quite wordy. Mostly, I'm concentrating on where I am moving my units, how efficiently I am using my stockpile of orders, and what I am building in my cities. So when an event comes my way and I need to make a decision, I am concentrated more on the outcomes that I need to choose between more than I am about ensuring that I am building the perfect story. But going back and reviewing more closely the decisions I did make, since I was no longer overly burdened with moving troops around, it was amazing to see how all of my decisions played out into this beautiful story. Of course, some of it is a bit random and lucky. For example, although I had to work a bit for it, the fact that I was able to secure a string of male heirs and could name them all Alexander was really cool. The fact that Alexander II was so old when his son was born meant that Alexander III could take the throne at a young age, just like his father. If Alexander II had had a son with his first wife in his mid-20s, Alexander III might have already been in his late 50s by the time he took the throne. But it didn't work out like that. Instead, it worked out like poetry. At points in the game, Axum likely had an edge over Greece and could have dealt real damage. I don't think I had really planned it that way, but the fact that Alexander II took an Axumite wife which kept relations stable meant that when Kush, a weaker nation, invaded Greece, it helped Greece to grow strong enough to ward off any enemy advance, including the Axumite invasion from Mendefera after the end of Alexander II's reign, when Alexander III, being half Danish, meant that there were no longer any peaceful ties binding the two nations. Crazy stuff. Rome was the other nation to play a major role in this game, even if their lands felt a bit distant. Persia and Hatti barely factored in this game, which I can't decide if is slightly disappointing or what actually allowed this game to have such a great story. I'm still getting to understand how Old World works, so I inevitably make plenty of mistakes along the way. But I did manage to better balance my economy and my military than I ever had, even if I feel like on higher difficulty, the AI could have easily found ways to exploit my weaknesses. And playing on the good, at least for now, felt like a decent challenge. The biggest difference being that when I had played on a higher level, I felt like it took 5 or 6 strikes at an enemy to kill a unit to their 2 strikes. However, I could perhaps have just come to better understand combat. We'll find out when I decide to play again. But hey, I finally got that win, which feels nice. Obviously, I am blown away over how well Old World lends itself to good storytelling. But this is just one game, and we'll see if I am able to build new and unique stories or if each playthrough inevitably hits the same beats. I think I played this entire game in like one day, pretty sure it was not more than two, because it was so damn engrossing, which is a good sign. Old World, in spite of its name, is still very new for me though. I found Civ 7 pretty engrossing at first, but obviously that wore off quick. Will Old World's interest begin to fall off as I play more? We shall see, because I will play again. Believe that. I am undecided about how I feel about the game playing out until one nation reaches a target score. I know that there are other ways to win games. I did achieve 9 of 10 ambitions, but for the moment, this is my experience one nation reaching a target score. On the one hand, it can feel a bit inconclusive, and I'm not always sure of what contributes to that score. For example, getting over the hump and winning the game by killing a barbarian unit in the field took some, even if only just a little, of the gravitas out of the final victory scenario. It does, however, definitely take away the late game fatigue, which I have never really suffered from, but that I know many players complain about. The score mechanic does keep you driving forward until you get over the line and rewards you for playing a good overall game rather than just slyly becoming the first to do one thing, which, as we've seen in Civ 7, is often not much of anything at all. As I said, I've been playing Old World quite a bit lately as it is filling the Civ hole for the moment. This is a Civ channel, and I will get back to covering it, but Old World is a really wonderful and fun 4X game, and I hope that this Old World story builds on my first impressions video that I did some weeks back. I may go on and do a full Old World in-depth review, but for now, let's leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep playing and making your own Old World stories, your own amazing path through history, and I'll see you next time.